Hi there folks and welcome to the What Solutions from this week's The Daily Rigour, issue number 204. Okay, so from the UK first of all, the government's response to the coronavirus is estimated to be at the 123.2 billion at cost to the taxpayer, and that's up from a previous estimate of 103.7 billion, and obviously the longer it goes on, the longer this figure will increase. So what is this rise in words? Well, to calculate the rise, we obviously just have to take the old estimate away from the new estimate, and because they're both in billions, we could actually just take those figures away, the decimal parts away from each other, just so long as we remember that our answer is going to be in billions. So that comes to 19.5, but we have to give our answer in words, so we said it was in billions, so that's clearly going to be 19 billion first of all. And the digit to the right of the decimal point will be the next highest place value down. So we've got 19 billion, so that's like 1/10 of billions and 9 billion. And then to the right of that is going to be 500 million, because it'd be hundreds of millions, then tens of millions, then units of millions, etc. So it's going to be 19 billion 500 million for the cost there. And because we're given the answer in words and it is a context question, technically we should put pounds at the end. Okay, so on to our next story, our sports story. We've never featured skateboarding before, but this is definitely a newsworthy story with an 11-year-old skateboarder doing the first ever 1080-degree turn. And we want to know how many full turns did the 11-year-old boy make in the air. Well, we should know how many degrees are in a full turn. It's 360 degrees because as it goes round a full turn, it's like four right angles, four lots of 90 degrees, which is 360. So we really want to know how many times 360 goes into 1080. So it's going to be a divide. And we could just count up. So it's 360, 720, and then if you add 360 on to 720, it comes to 1080 exactly. So it's going to be 3 full turns was the answer we were looking for. So part B, the legendary Tony Hawk could only manage 900 degrees, and how many turns did he manage to complete? So we could just do 360 into 900, but if you're doing it mentally, here's another way you could do it. You could find out how many degrees less he did by taking 900 away from 1080. So he did 180 degrees fewer in a turn. So if 360 degrees is a full turn, then 180 degrees is going to be a half turn. So he did a half turn less than that boy. So half a turn less than 3 full turns is 2.5 turns or 2.5 turns. Still pretty good, but not quite as good as that 11-year-old boy, and well done to him. It's definitely worth checking out on YouTube as part of your PE lessons this week. So it was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so on to our entertainment story. So a retired doctor from Glasgow narrowly missed out on £1 million from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He did, I suppose the one crumb of comfort he could take from that is he did get £500,000 as a small consolation prize. So he actually, when the £1 million question came up, the gut feeling that he had was actually the right answer, but it wasn't worth the gamble. So since the show came out in 1998, there's been loads of occasions where contestants have lost a lot of money or not won a lot of money due to poor maths knowledge, and here's 4 examples of them. So we'll just kind of work through these questions just now. So it should be pointed out that when contestants are on the show, they can't use a calculator. And even though the host will sometimes say take as long as you need, they can't take that long because it's a television show, and the longer they take means that other people can't go on. So you've got to answer these quite quickly, and to do that, sometimes it's good to look for good mental strategies that will help you. So in terms of this time interval from 7:14 a.m. to 5:11 p.m., instead of going to the next hour and then the hour you require and then the time that you require, you could actually just look at working out from 7:14 a.m. to 5:14 p.m. because the minutes are the same, so the jump's just going to be in hours. So 5 and 24-hour time is 1700 hours, so it's like 17 take away 7, which is 10 hours. But of course 5:11 is 3 minutes less than that, so we just need to go back 3 minutes, so that's obviously going to be 9 hours and 57 minutes. So it's quite easy to answer if you employed that strategy. So question 2, what's the minimum number of 6-packs one would need in order to put 99 bottles of beer in the wall? In other words, we're trying to work out how many times 6 goes into 99, so it would be a divide. And again, in the show, you couldn't show your working. You would have to kind of do this mentally. So 6 goes into 9 once with 3 left over. And then we're doing 6 into 39 which is going to be 6 times, and that'd be 36, and counting up to 39, that would be a remainder of 3. So in other words, we need 16 and a bit 6-packs in order to get 99 bottles of beer. So that means there's no 16 to kind of tempt you there. So now that you've got this answer, it's pretty obvious there has to be 17. But 16 crates wouldn't give us the full 99. So we would need 17 6-packs. And then, of course, we'd have some bottles left over, but that's us correctly answered the question. So question 3, which is a wee bit trickier to read. So 12,000 calories and 125 cupcakes. So how many calories per cupcake? So again, it's how many times does 125 go into 12,000? But would you be confident at doing that sum under pressure in a game show? I think not. I mean, if we look at the answers, they're far enough apart, so we can use some of our estimating and rounding here. It's easy enough to find out how many times 100 goes into 12,000, because we can just move everything down 2 place values, or dare I say it, take off 2 zeros. So that would give us like 120 calories if there was 100 cupcakes. But there was a wee bit more, cupcakes than that, which means the calories will be a wee bit less. But if you actually look at the answers, there's only one that's anywhere close to 120, so that would be 96, option B, and 12,000 divided by 125 is 96 exactly. But if you had to count up, you would have had to have used 96 fingers. Okay, so question 4, this one here actually cost a contestant, I think it was $16,000. It was quite famous at the time. So which of these numbers also happens to be the sum? Which of these square numbers also happens to be the sum of 2 smaller square numbers? So the answer is 25. Of course, we need a reason there, and that's because 3 squared, which is 9, add 4 squared, so that's 9 plus 16. That comes to 25, and there's no other one of them that will give you 2 smaller squares added together. It's actually all to do with a 3, 4, 5 triangle from Pythagoras. You may have seen that before, and you would have answered the question quicker. And if you hadn't, that was a really tricky one, so well done if you got it correct. Okay, so on to our final story from the USA. So a restaurant bringing out a COVID surcharge to help tackle rising costs, because they can only do deliveries, they can't actually open the restaurant. So if you can kind of see from that receipt, it's $1 and the total was $14.25. We have to calculate the surcharge as a percentage of the total bill. So the surcharge divided by the total will make it a decimal, and then to turn that decimal into a percentage, we need to times by 100. Think of it like working out a test score. You know, your score divided by the total number of marks times 100. So the surcharge is $1. We're dividing by the total, which is 14.25, and then we're timesing by 100, and that's going to come to 7.0175, etc. We have to round our answer to the nearest percent, so it's a 0 to the right of the 7, so that's clearly going to be 7% to the nearest percent, which I don't think is too bad. Remember, there are a lot of local businesses, particularly in the service industry, struggling just now, and we need to try and support them as much as possible. Okay, there we have it, folks. Our Word Solutions for issue number 204. Hope you got on okay with them. Stay tuned for next week's edition, when we're going to be looking at more stories from the news of the week and the numbers behind them. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and bye for now.